can defend Joe Biden all day long. You can defend Joe Biden. You can be on his legal defense team. Kevin Morris will probably pay your legal bills if you want.
You're not answering my question.
No, I am answering your question.
It's the same debate he's been having for months. Comer says they have evidence. Reporters ask what it is. He gets mad. He says they should be on Hunter's defense team. Comer then went into the closed-door meeting where Hunter testified for about 7 hours. Here's everything new the American people learned from this so far. Nothing. This was a performance. Not much substance. How do we know? Because even the bombastic Matt Gaetz had not much to pitch when he appeared in front of the cameras.
I believe that you can actually bribe someone by paying their family members. Like, I don't get this construct that unless Joe Biden himself received cash, that he somehow wasn't involved in the bribery operation.
It's the same thing, right? Nothing new. By the way, Democrats made a huge show of it also, maybe much more so, right? Democratic Representative Jasmine Crockett was outraged about the whole thing.
We're talking about his son. We're talking about someone who is an actual citizen, just a regular citizen. We're talking about a son that was struggling, a son that lost his mom, a son that lost his brother, a son that lost his sister, a son that has had a father that has been in politics since he was 2 years old. This has been his life. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he can't do.
That's sort of the point, right? Everyone kind of knew what was going to happen here. Hunter was never going to go in there, finally admit, okay, all right. Yeah, my dad, yeah, he was working for the company. Yeah, he was on the payroll. Which is the only thing that really could have been a bombshell. In fact, none of the witnesses that the GOP has called said that. Even Tony Bobulinski didn't directly implicate President Biden. In his prepared opening statement, Hunter accused Republicans of trafficking in, quote, innuendo, distortion, and sensationalism, and said again that he, quote, did not involve my father in my business, which is he was always going to say, and that they have not been able to prove anything. After the grilling, he didn't say anything. His attorney, though, addressed reporters.
Very briefly, you all, because you're interested. After 7 hours of questions, the Republican majority ends the day with where they started. They have produced no evidence that would do anything to support the notion that there was any financial transactions that involved Hunter with his father, period. It seems to me that the Republican members wanted to spend more time talking about my client's addiction than they could ask any question that had anything to do with what they call their impeachment inquiry. So, as I said before, there is no evidence because there is no evidence, and today only confirmed that. Thank you.
Don't forget, he's currently being prosecuted criminally, despite Republicans saying that would never happen. The point is, he was never going to go in there and say something that would directly put his dad in his business dealings. They wanted the show, and they got it. So do Democrats, by the way. You know, when that transcript comes out from this hearing, it's clearly not going to include any bombshells. Because if there were any, we would know about them. Let me just bring in Sarah Krisoff for a final question on this, former federal prosecutor. So he's now testified. They're going to have all this testimony of him from 7 hours. Can that now be used in the trial or trials of Hunter Biden against him in some way?
Well, possibly, like, should he choose to testify, right? And then he's made a statement here that is contrary to what he says in his own testimony, then that could be used against him in that way. It likely not affirmatively used against him, but if he testifies, they could use it to impeach him.
Right. So if he doesn't testify, this testimony that he's given in front of Congress probably would not come in.
That's correct.
Right. Now, James Comer is still saying that they may have a public hearing. I find that hard to believe. I think if there was going to be a public hearing, it's not going to change anything. And so I wonder, you think that they're going to still have a public hearing?
Listen, I mean, we've had a lot of leaks come out about what was said today. We're going to get the transcript. As you said, there really was nothing of substance. This was just a show, as you said, or a circus is another way to put it. And I expect, you know, given what happened today, I don't see a lot of use for anybody in having a public hearing on the same issue.
Right. Because It's interesting that Hunter Biden had initially fought this, right? That he's initially said, I'm not going to show up, which in retrospect, I think even he realized was a mistake. It gave the impression he's trying to hide it. He won't come and answer the questions, et cetera. And now he shifted gears. I wonder, do you think that was legal advice or political advice that he got to lead him to show up?
Listen, he has a lot of different interests at play, right? So first of all, he is probably worried foremost about his criminal cases and the intersection of any testimony here in those cases. And his liberty is at stake in those matters. So he's probably thinking of those first. And I assume his lawyers are prioritizing those as well. So, he's balancing a lot of attacks at the moment and has to deal with them all.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.